How you guys doing tonight, ladies and gentlemen? You are experiencing the world famous Rich Wilson show. That's right. We're here, and that's not supposed to be what's up there. I'm getting everything ready for today, and I just kind of left that one up there. So, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who have never been a part of the show, let me give you a little insight about how this works. So, I don't even know why I'm going into about how the show is. It's one of those things that you should just experience it. And that's what it's going to be. It's going to be an experience, folks. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, like I said again, welcome to the show. And let's get and let me tell you about what we're going to talk about tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about stupidity using TikTok. We're going to talk about stupid internet trends. And then after that, you're going to find out that NASA found a radio frequency that's coming from outer space. And some like extraterrestrial stuff. E.T. isn't phoning home. E.T. is phoning here. Also, I'll give you an update on some other things. In fact, I'm going to start off with a quick little brief update about things that are going on. Number one, the Russians still haven't invaded Ukraine. Go figure. Supreme Court Justice Breyer announced today that he was retiring. Originally, he was thinking about retiring in June, which is usually about the time that they retire. But unfortunately, he got pushed into his retirement. Okay, let's just say that his intention wasn't to retire now. He kind of got told he was retiring. So that's where that is. And then there was one other thing that I wanted to update you guys on, and I can't remember what that is. So you know what? We're just going to move. Oh, yeah, Neal Young. Neal Young, all of his music has been taken off of Spotify. For those of you who may not be aware, Neal Young gave an ultimatum that if Joe Rogan's podcast wasn't taken off of Spotify, he wanted his entire music collection taken off. Well, Spotify responded by taking all of his stuff off. Now, the only issue I have with this stunt, and this is something that he said, and I find it interesting that people screaming for, freedom of speech are the same ones that scream the loudest to censor someone. You can't have it both ways. All right. If you're going to say everybody gets freedom of speech, then regardless if you like what they're saying, as long as they ain't breaking the law, they get the rights to freedom of speech here in this country. Now, I know that we're global, so I could be talking to people in a country that may not have that and may not understand what it is. Just trust me, it's it's us. The insanity that's this country right now. We need freedom of speech, but you can't talk. That's how stupid it is. Okay, so anyway, I saw a lot of people making the arguments, and let me tell you something. If you're going to try to argue in support of Neal Young, if you're going to sit there and try to argue in the support of what he's done, can you at least name something other than Ohio as one of his songs, please? The man made like 1 billion songs. He has like 30,000 albums. Okay. Be able to at least name some of his music. Don't just jump on the bandwagon because that's where everybody else is, because that's called fake hate. And fake hate is bull, and fake hate needs to stop. We need to get sensibility back in this country, ladies and gentlemen. We really do. Okay, so let's get into our top story for tonight. Our top story, and let me pull it up here. It's here somewhere. What did I do with it? There it is. So our top story for tonight is 13-year-old girl is charged with a felony after allegedly threatening to shoot up the Katy Charter School on TikTok. For those of you out there who think you can use TikTok and do whatever the hell you want with no repercussions, oof, you got another thing coming. There's been a lot of people on TikTok showing that they'll do something stupid and then they get fired, and then they'll shoot some video where you need to feel sorry for them. And unfortunately, if you're going to do stupid stunts on social media, then if you play stupid games, you're going to win stupid prizes. It's just as simple as that. So, Harris County, Texas, investigators say that a threatening TikTok post landed a 13-year-old girl in custody. The girl allegedly threatened to shoot up her school, which we learned in Calvin Nem's charter school in Katy. She was picked up on Tuesday wearing pajamas and flip-flops and faces felony charges of making a terroristic threat. Video of her in handcuffs is getting a lot of attention on social media, and I'll talk about that in a second. And it shows Harris County Precinct 5 Deputy Constable escorting the girl from a squad car. School children of all ages need to know that these threats will be taken seriously, said the Constable Ted Heap in a Facebook post. I do not know how to pronounce your name, but anyway, welcome to the show. So what this comes down to, and I saw a lot of people on social media today talking about how it was unfair what they were doing. Okay. And one of the things that I find insane about that argument is every time that there is an incident where somebody shoots up a school, the same people saying that what happened was it was wrong and unfair what they did to her are the same people that are screaming when a shooting happens, well, we should have known. I'm sure there was warning signs. We should have stopped it. And now you have a situation where they actually did what they were supposed to do. And now everybody's saying, well, you can't just arrest her because she said that. And it's that freedom of speech thing again. Well, okay, freedom of speech. And understand, I have a constitutional law degree. Okay. With a constitutional law degree, let me explain to you freedom of speech. And now with freedom of speech, you do have the right to express your opinion. Unless your opinion or unless your statement can be considered harmful or threatening. And when I say harmful, I mean it to literally incite a riot and cause harm is not protected under this Freedom of Speech Act clause. To yell out fire in a crowded theater, which would cause a stampede and get people injured, not protected under freedom of speech. Threatening a violent act is not protected under freedom of speech. Okay. And then some of you have said, well, she was on TikTok, so, that she should be allowed to do that. And privacy. Well, first of all, when you're on social media, you don't have privacy. Your expectation of privacy, it's gone right out the window. So everything you say on social media can be used against you. Every bit of it. There's some countries on this planet that they don't even, first of all, there's some countries don't even allow you to use social media. And then there's other countries where it's even stiffer than that. And what I also find disturbing about this situation is TikTok isn't the one that reported it. It was a classmate, which I find that wonderful, and I'm grateful that that classmate reported it, but that should have been one of those things that got caught, because they have an algorithm that especially even on TikTok, when you're shooting a video. Now the problem where you're shooting a video and then they will and certain things are supposed to happen that trigger certain things, but the problem is the Chinese are the ones that own TikTok, so. Unfortunately, do you think the Chinese are going to call back to the United States, to Katy, Texas, to tell them that they got a student that wants to shoot up their school? No, they're not. They're not going to do that. Okay. But it begs it then becomes a question of whether or not these social media groups, when these things start to happen on there, are they responsible for notifying law enforcement? Well, in some situations, if it's very well known and they have already started to take actions to hinder the account for the individual and they still do not report it, I believe that, yes, there is some form of liability by there. However, if it's something that's happening in real time at the moment, I don't believe that they're necessarily liable at that moment, but the moment it shows that the company has taken an action against what got posted, I believe then there is some culpability to the situation. I believe anybody that supports some of these things. So if somebody goes on social media and says they're going to do some heinous act, and then a bunch of people like, oh, I dare you. I don't know why somebody's calling me. This is definitely not the time to call me. Spam callers. What's worse is I did turn my ringer off this time. I made sure of it, and it still rang anyway. So anyway, people that sit there in the chat rooms though, or in the or on the photographs or text that where they said this, that they want to do something heinous, that are cheering these people on, should be just as liable if the person goes through with it. I really believe this. I don't know if you do. That's totally that's something that's totally up to you. But when you go on a social media platform and you do these things, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're going to be held responsible for your actions. And today was a prime example of it working the right way. She threatened to shoot up her school. A student reported it. She got arrested for it. They take these things seriously, and they should take these things seriously. Now, this stupidity kind of transitions itself into my next story for tonight. My next story for tonight, and that goes into my second news for the evening, is stupid social media trends. Now, of course, we're all familiar with the Tide Pod Challenge. That became a big thing, but here's some of the ones that you may not have been aware of. The Outlet Challenge. This challenge involved plugging in your phone charger into the wall outlet, then sliding a coin hitting the exposed prongs. This leads to countless short circuits and in some cases fires. Needless to say, a lot of dumbasses could have been electrocuted. Okay, let me explain this to you. If you take your phone charger, you pull it out slightly enough to where it's still getting electricity, it's still making contact, and you drop a piece of metal that's conductive inside of there. Your best case scenario is you short circuit it and you blow the fuse. Or then a fire. Worst case scenario is you go to grab that coin, you're going to get electrocuted, and it could kill you. And sucks to be you if you do something that stupid. The fire challenge. I remember watching this. This was insane. This one is very self-explanatory. Idiots pour flammable liquids on themselves on fire. That dude is on fire. The people who were seriously injured from that stupid-ass challenge, I'm sorry. You deserve it. Let's stop and even think of this for a second. You take a flammable liquid, you pour it on your body, and you light yourself on fire. Now, somebody tried to come back as defense, go, well, they do it in the movies. Yes, because in the movies, one, they're wearing a fire protective outfit. Number two, the material that they pour on them is a specially formulated chemical that allows the heat level to be at such a low content that it lowers the risk to their lives. Three, they know full well what they're doing anyway is dangerous, and they go into it knowing that they could possibly lose their lives doing it. It's not some goofy trend to get a laugh or to get people to like you. I need to move this. I'm still working on some of the things around my studio, so you'll have to excuse me. There's been a lot of changes. The Salt and Ice Challenge. Now, this one I wasn't aware of. This must have happened while I was out on the road. If you don't know, I'm a former truck driver. This one doesn't involve fire, but it can did give some people second and third degree burns. Basically, willing participants put salt in on their exposed skin and then put ice on it, holding them together, and see who can tolerate the pain the longest. Okay, so ice or salt, when you take sodium and you intertwine it with a catalyst, it has a chemical reaction. And in this case, what the ice does is as the water melts and intertwines with the salt, it creates amount of heat. And when you confine it with pressure, you increase that chemical reaction and it causes a burn. It starts to heat up. Okay? And you deserve getting burnt. Now, a lot of these people went into this challenge from what I was reading about it, because once again, I wasn't aware of this challenge. I must have missed this one. But what ends up happening is, people do this. This is a chemistry experiment. And if you don't understand chemistry and you don't understand the two elements that you are pressing together and creating a chemical reaction, if you don't understand that reaction and how it affects you, you should never, ever, ever, ever do that. Remember, everything in this world is made up with chemicals, and certain things interact a certain way, and a lot of times it's not safe. And hence why people got second and third degree burns. The Tide Pod Challenge. We all know about this one. This was simple enough. You ate packets of laundry detergent and posted on social media, and mostly what you got is you got very sick from it. YouTube has taken down almost all of them. In fact, if one pops up, they almost immediately take it down, because at some point you have to say that you're doing the Tide Pod Challenge. Believe it or not, if you try to just say Tide Pod on a YouTube video, it automatically flags your content for review, and if the moment they see it, poof, it's gone. Now, they're going to look at mine because I said it, but because I'm not doing it, I don't have to worry about it. Now, what you're going to... so let's stop and think about this for a second. What are the chemicals in laundry detergent? Okay, and then so you look at the laundry detergent chemicals, and they react certain ways. And they react with the body a certain way because of what's in your system. They are highly toxic to you as a person. And so when you ingest them and you intertwine them with not only your saliva, but then those chemicals get ingested into pores on the way down, absorbed, and then you intertwine that with the acid that's in your stomach, it is a very, very horrifically toxic cocktail. In fact, a majority of poisonings that happen to children under the age of 10 are from ones that have either gotten into laundry detergent or the cleaners that you normally would keep underneath your sink. All that stuff is deadly to human beings. So why would you put this in your mouth long enough for the packet to dissolve and then spit it out and think you're going to be perfectly fine? You've already started absorbing that into your body. You've already begun a toxic reaction. It is... The fact that more people didn't die was amazing. That was the amazing part of this. The choking game. Now, I remember when this one came out, this was before the Tide Pod Challenge. Also fairly simple. Participants find ways to cut oxygen supply off with the goal of getting some weird high but end up just passing out. Not a bunch of bright people, you see. And this claimed its fair share of lives as well, in case you were getting the idea. I shouldn't have to explain this, but I really, for the sake of all things holy, I will try to explain this. So the whole idea of intentionally choking yourself out is a dumb idea. And here's the reason. Your brain that controls your every operation that your body does, and probably the thing that Joe Biden is missing the most. It needs constant things. It needs constant air, it needs constant blood. And when you choke yourself out, you're eliminating, during this process, one of the vital things your brain needs. And when you do that, it causes brain cell death and degradation, which ends up hurting you even longer, even if this doesn't kill you. But then the worst part is some people, naturally speaking, take longer to go unconscious. And it could be to the point that you shut down completely, because the brain has a safety mechanism. When the body is in distress, it starts shutting things down. Your heart could be one of those things. And then if you're by yourself, you're dead. It's over. It's game over, man. Game over. So in that situation, it's not shocking that people died because of this. It isn't. What's sad is it was a lot of children that did this to be cool. And then the fact that there was some adults that did this and died. Darwinism is all I can say. Darwinism at its finest. Helium huffing. Now, a lot of us have done the whole, we'll take an inhale off of a helium balloon, you get the funny voice, and it's because it changes the pressure variance in the oxygen, and it's what causes your voice to change. You must have seen this on sitcoms late night where celebrities inhale helium and talk in a funny voice, which must be safe, right? Yeah, well, except it's not. Inhaling helium under pressure can push oxygen out of your body and collapse your lungs, as a lot of people have unfortunately found out over the last few years. So what helium huffing actually was doing is inhaling a very exuberant amount of helium, not just the standard, and you talk funny for a few seconds. Okay? They were doing it to actually get a high out of it. Because if you take in enough helium, part of that chemical gets absorbed into you slightly, and you get a high. You would get a high from it. But it comes with a downside. The reason why your lungs collapse is because you have filled your lungs with a chemical that is of a much thinner composition than oxygen. And that's the reason why your voice goes very high-pitched. And your lungs don't have the proper pressure regulation. And it causes them, when they fill up with air, they stay up. Because air has a density to it. Well, when you put in something that's a different density, that's a lighter density than oxygen, well, then that pressure that's inside the lungs takes however much the difference is in pressure. So think about it this way. If it takes 1 pound of air pressure to keep the lungs open, then if you ingest helium, it would require 2 pounds of helium in order to equal that 1 pound of air pressure. Well, when you fill your lungs, you're actually only putting the volume that you would normally put in an air, so you only have half of it. So lungs, the muscle pushes back and causes them to collapse. It's completely and utterly idiotic. But again, this is another thing that's like chemistry, that if you don't understand these things, then you should never do them. I mean, you should never really inhale helium anyway. But yes, everybody does and gets a kick out of it. But I'm going to tell you, it's not safe. But if you don't understand the chemistry of what you're doing, stop doing it. You're going to get yourself or someone else killed. Animal cruelty. Now, originally, this is not that nomination was not animal cruelty. It was originally something else, and it got perverted into something. And some of these trends actually started off as something innocent and got perverted into something so bad that it killed people. So this one is the one that started out as people just chugging drinks and nominating others to do the same, while it caused some serious hangovers and puking, because it did. It started off with like First, it was like overly drinking orange juice or milk or something, and then it turned into alcohol, and then it twisted into something else. While it caused some serious hangovers and puking and definitely caused alcohol poisoning in some cases, it became weird when people started drinking booze with dead animals and goldfish at the bottom of their glasses. And like I said, it started off, the actual origination of this started off with, believe it or not, it was like drinking like water, and then it turned into this, turned into that. And then when it hit popularity is when it was alcohol based. And so the thing was, and I don't even remember what the original cause started as. That's the bad part about it. But then people started taking dead animals that could fit in a glass, would blend them in a blender, mix it with a bunch of other random crap, and drink it. And so here's where this becomes overly dangerous. As stupid as it is, if you start consuming raw dead animals that are complete, that means all of their organs and the chemicals that their bodies are producing as they're decaying are all intertwined, and you're drinking that. And that's how you get bacteria problems, Ebola, you name it. You get all this crazy ass shit from consuming whole dead animals. Salmonella poisoning, all kinds of shit. And then when you say, well, Ebola, that seems a little bit extreme, but there are some. There was a case of one that actually got it because the mouse that he put in there was a lab rat, and he was an actual lab technician. And a lab rat that they had killed, they injected with Ebola, and then he took the dead rat and blended it and drank it. The sheer fact that individual made it that far to become a scientist, insanely nuts. Insanely nuts. I hope the fact that they fired him after he recovered. That's the wrong button, dumbass. There we go. Inhaling nitrous oxide. For the uninitiated, nitrous oxide is used by a dentist to knock you out. Yes, you get that. It's called laughing gas. They give that to you. You start laughing and stuff, and it's part of the reactionary process until you end up knocked out. When consumed as a recreational drug, it gives you a sense of euphoria followed by a bout of giggles. This can also cause blackouts and heart attacks. Nitrous oxide is also inactivates B12 in your system, which then can cause damage to your spinal cord. There's a reason why a dentist only gives you certain amounts. If you sit there and start inhaling it like you're regularly breathing for a good amount of time, it causes what it does is the B12 in your system then goes inert, and your spinal cord needs that in order to maintain itself, and without it, it will start to degrade, which will kill you. Not to mention the fact it can cause heart attacks and blackouts. Blackouts are bad enough because it causes memory loss, which is brain damage. Heart attacks, which that's your ticker. And damage to your spinal cord, which leads to paralysis and then leads to death. It's not worth it. The boiling water challenge. Now everybody that lives in a cold climate somewhere has done this trick where you go outside with a boiling glass of water and you throw it out there and it's so cold that it freezes before it hits the ground. All of us have done it at some point in a cold climate. Every one of us. Fairly simple, makes you wonder if all the dumb people come up with these ideas. For this one, you have to live in extremely cold climates and then throw boiling water up in the air and watch it instantly change to snow. It doesn't change to snow. Here's the deal though. The water is still hot, and if it falls on you, often causing severe burns. It was actually a few people that suffered puncture wounds. So when you do this trick, you throw it out in front of you. You throw it out, and poof, and it all it is it's ice, and it's a bunch of icicles. You could say the mist is like a snow, right? But it's this cool little science trick, right? But what people were doing for photo ops is they were throwing it overhead. Well, if the temperature, okay, so understand how this works. Like I said, again, it's science. Understand that if the ambient temperature it's going into isn't a certain difference in degrees, if there isn't a certain amount of oxygen in your water will not freeze. Like if you, so think about it this, if you ever notice you put hot water into an ice cube tray, you put it into the freezer, you get it, and it has all kinds of holes in it, but when you use cold water, it doesn't. It's because it does freeze faster because of the change of temperature, but what ends up happening is there's a lot of air still trapped inside of it because water molecules, when they're hot, okay, have a higher oxygen content. So you get these air gaps in ice. Okay, it's why firefighters don't use hot water to put water on heat. It's not because it prevents water from smothering a fire. What it does is it adds a whole lot of oxygen in the water. As you heat the molecules up, air can actually get in there, and air fuels fire. Plus, the hotter you get the water, the less temperatures it can absorb. One of the reasons why it freezes so fast is because it's an instant switch. It's a chemical reaction. I'm not going to bore the hell out of you guys with this shit. Okay, I'm just not going to do it. But it's a reaction to the cold air versus the hot molecules and how they interact. But the problem is there's air involved. Now, some of the people that were hurt severely by this were using, say, distilled water. Distilled water molecules do not attract other molecules to them. So when you heat it up, there's less oxygen in the water, and so when you fling it up, it won't freeze as fast. So if you're using boiling hot water that's distilled and you throw it in the air when it's stupid cold, your chances of it freezing before it makes contact with you is very slim. And a lot of these people are getting second and third degree burns because they would fling it over them like in this big fan looking deal to get these awesome photographs. But a lot of people were getting burnt. Some people were actually getting ice puncture wounds from this stuff. Just don't do it. And then sorting the condom challenge. That was one of our lovely ones. So people just snorting condoms, I guess. Too bad. It's solid and is very likely to kill you or land you in the emergency ward, and then you have to explain to a bunch of strangers why you snorted condoms while your parents think about giving you up for adoption. I don't know why this became a thing. I couldn't tell you why this became a thing, but just the sheer idea that you're going to take a lubricated condom, you're going to stick it in your nostril, and you're going to snort that bitch like it's cocaine. There's only one place that it goes when you do this. If it goes all the way through, you can get it to go all the way through. But it can only go one place. That's your lungs. It's a it's a rubberized object that just went in your lungs. They have to do surgery to get that out. Okay? It will kill you. And then with it being lubricated, you gave it the express lane. Now, going back and looking at some of these stories, okay? Just the sheer fact of the explanation alone tells you that the people that did this was Darwinism at its finest. If you seriously stuck a Tide Pod in your mouth thinking it was cool, don't breed. Do not make other units like you. If you thought it was cool to blend up dead animals and drink them, don't go outside anymore and infect the population. Okay? If you're snorting condoms, get a fucking hobby. That's not that. If you think choking yourself out is a fun thing to do, I can't really say much about this because what I want to tell you will probably get me kicked off of every social media page that I broadcast on. But just let me tell you, that is the dumbest damn thing. That one for me, the snorting the condom one, has to rank up there stupidity wise with the Tide Pod challenge. Now I get the water thing. Everybody at some point tries that. I don't even know why it became a trend, because everybody has done it at some point that lives in a very cold climate. I've done it. I'm just not dumb enough to throw it over my head. The salt and ice thing. I mean, hell, I learned that in chemistry or in science class in high school. Before you do these challenges, if you take 5 minutes and just Google search, what would happen if I snort a condom? I'm willing to bet it'll give you an answer. I'm willing to bet if you Google search, what if I take salt and ice in my two hands and squeeze them together, what would happen? You'll get the rundown of the entire chemistry of the chemical reactions and what it does. Some of you people out there use the internet for some of the most bullshit reasons, when it can also be a tool to educate you on something before you do something stupid that could kill you. And I really wish that some of you would use this expansive tool that we have of knowledge and use it for the right thing and learn something. Because those of you out there that have done some of these top 10 stupid challenges, you really need to educate yourself. Because you're not the brightest crayon in the box. So now we move on to my third story tonight, and that is this. Is it this one? No, that's the text. There we go. Astronomers puzzle over spooky space objects beaming out radio signals. That's right. Our friends at NASA and the other agency, drawing a blank on them right now, but we'll get to it. They found something out there in space that's actually sending out signals. It's kind of like some E.T. extraterrestrial stuff right there. That's the wrong button. That's the wrong one. Good Lord, you'd think I would have figured this out by now. All right. Excuse me, but the error lies between the keyboard and the floor. Objects in space that pulse on and off and are often referred to as transients. Now, we're not talking about the ones that live in San Francisco that are shitting on the sidewalk. Different kinds of transients. However, ICRAR, astrophysicist and co-author Dr. Gemma Anderson, explained that finding out that something turns on for about a minute is what differentiates this discovery from others. Some researchers suspect that it may be a magnetar, a neutron star with a very strong magnetic field. Now, for those of you that are seriously thinking out there that this quite possibly could be proof of, alien civilization.
If there is intelligent life out there and they come.
That's not working. It worked earlier, now it's not.
If there is intelligent life out there and they come here, it's going to be like Columbus and the Indians. Only we're the Indians.
Ladies.
Okay. This isn't a situation with extraterrestrials. This isn't E.T. This isn't Star Wars. Yoda is not stopping by, folks. Okay. What ends up happening, and this is not the first time they have gotten frequencies off everything. So when you have a strong magnetic field and you have it bombarding with other magnetic fields, it will give off a resonance. It will give off a resonancy frequency or a frequency resonancy. It gives off a signal, and that signal will ripple. And based on the frequencies of interactions versus rotation versus something else, it will send out it sends out these magnetic frequencies, which registers radio waves. My fiance could tell you probably a lot more about it than I ever could without me trying to make it sound like stereo instructions. Okay. But these are not an uncommon thing. And in fact, if you actually go to SETI's website, they will tell you that there is a lot of radio frequencies in the galaxy. This one just happened to be extremely strong, and so it raised some attention. So it doesn't mean that there's aliens out there. Now, I could be completely wrong, and it could be and literally, it could be an invasion fleet working their way here. Well, they're 42,000 light years away. Okay. It's going to be a while. At the rate that they observed it, and we're talking about a long, long time. So you don't have to worry that tomorrow we're gonna wake up and there's aliens sitting on the White House lawn. Let me explain to you something. If the aliens land on the White House lawn, they're in for that. Their impression of humans is going to be so low that either one, they're going to kill us just because they feel sorry for us, or two, they're just going to leave and never talk to us again. Because if Joe Biden is their first experience with the human race, God help us all. But no, in this situation, it's not like we're talking about a spacecraft that's sending out a signal to say hi there to the people of Earth, to quote Dr. McCoy. It is simply an object with magnetic fields, and those magnetic fields have a resonancy frequency that will in intervals based on a lot of different factors. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. So there you go on that. So give me. Look, we're going to take a minute here. I need to take a drink real fast. Give me 1 second. And we're going to take a brief time out, and I will be right back with you to close this out for the night. I forgot. You can still see me. I really got to work on that. All right. I'm playing around with a bunch of new stuff on here, and I finally got smart and stepped up to Streamlabs for this. But this is the part of the show where I normally open this up for discussion when I'm normally just doing this on YouTube and YouTube only. And so if there's anybody out there that wants to discuss anything that we talked about on the show, or if there's anything else out there that you want to talk about tonight, there it is. By the way, just to give you, like I said before when I was talking about the Neal Young thing, okay? I just want to make it very, very clear. To me, this sounds like this is another attempt at a musician or celebrity that time has kind of passed by and is trying to become relevant. And it's a sad, sad thing that they do this, like I said, in order to gain relevancy. And the problem is they're using this psychosis that's currently going on in the world, and I call this psychosis the cancel culture, to regain that notoriety with the younger people. See, I grew up with Neal, listening to groups, artists like Neil Young, the Rolling Stones, Metallica, Skid Row, stuff, bands like that. and like the Sugar Hill Gang and, you know, and the thing is they do these things to make themselves seem relevant and cool and hip with the younger generation. And it's sad to see this. And then the worst part is a bunch of you out there who have no real idea who Neil Young is think that, oh man, you know, Neil Young, he's such a legend and everything else. It's because that's what you're told to say. And then you go out there and talk about how, well, you know, stand up and support Neil Young, blah, 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 when you can't even name songs. Like, do you know how many people thought Ohio's song, the song Ohio was actually named My Mime, Hey Hey, when that's not the name of the song? Which tells you these morons that are perpetuating this fake hate have no idea what they're even talking about. They're just told to say these things. They're told to feel this way. And the worst part is you have celebrities that are now buying into this. And that's sad. Now, I saw, because in front of me, I have one of my screens going that's showing me the news as we're going on and any updates. One of the updates I'm seeing is that Russia has taken the letter that Blinken sent to the ambassadors for the United States' response to what's going on, and evidently Putin was none too pleased and did not feel that it was very hopeful for things. I'm going to tell you right now, if I got any of my fans that are out there in the Ukraine right now, get prepared. This time around, it doesn't really seem like this is saber rattling. Okay? This really doesn't seem like it. To me, this is really starting to shape up. Something's really going on. I want you guys to be safe as best as you can out there. And if that means getting the hell out, that means getting the hell out. But let me close this show off tonight with this. We all need to start figuring out a way to work together. And we need to start figuring out a way to live together. Somehow we've forgotten that. Somehow we've forgotten the common decency for the fellow man. And along the ways, what has happened is a lot of influential people have started telling people how to feel. And the bad part about it is these people latch on like their voice is a reason and this is how their life should be. And unfortunately, it's caused a lot of what I've referred to tonight as fake hate. If you were not told these things, you would not hate the things that you're being told to hate. Because before this crap really caught wind, there wasn't these issues. Okay? When it comes to, like I said before, about systematic racism is no longer a thing. Okay? It hasn't been a thing for a little while now. There are residual effects from systematic racism, and those are things that are being corrected as we go along. But the whole idea of systematic racism would be the system itself suppressing people from even positions of power when that is not true. There is many people who are not white that are in positions of power in multiple different countries in the world. So just the whole logic of systematic racism falls apart on its face simply because the actual numbers don't lie. And see, here's the thing. The numbers can't lie. Numbers don't lie. You can say how you feel all you want, but the numbers don't support your feelings on the matter, and you can't argue that. Now, I can understand some of you feeling the way that you do because someone told you that's how you need to feel. And because your life has gotten to a point where you latch on to somebody telling you that these are the same people that tell you your life matters, and that you are an important person and that everything you are. But then they go back and your individuality is what makes you who you are. But then they go back and tell you how to feel. They tell you what to think. If your individuality and your individual thought process mattered that much, nobody should be able to tell you how to feel or how to think. Now you say, well, I think for myself. No, you don't. Because the other downside to all this is things are given to you instead of earning them. And when something is given to you and it becomes easy, you tend to latch on to that. Because when you lower a challenge, it becomes easier, and that's the path you go. Human psyche works kind of like water. It finds the path of least resistance. Well, if you're given these thoughts and you're given these ideas and you're pointed in a direction where it's all spelled out for you, then that's where you go. And the problem is then when it gets worse is when somebody comes along that gives you a thought that completely contradicts this person who made you feel so great, you automatically lash out against them. Case in point, if you get a scientist that comes out and tells you that global warming and climate change is not as severe as some of these global climate change extremists say they are because they've been hand feeding you everything, and this person comes along and contradicts that, you immediately attack them. You'll say in one breath, you should believe in the science. But then when you're presented with a scientist that has a different theory, it becomes believe in our science. That's why I call it fake hate. We really need to find a way to stop listening to people that are trying to spoon feed us information. If somebody is giving you free information and just constantly spoon feeding it to you, it's because they have an agenda. It's because they want you to believe exactly as they believe, and they want to grow that group of people. You've got to stop that. You've got to start using this for yourself. Don't let somebody else tell you what you're supposed to feel. Don't let somebody else tell you what you're supposed to think. Go out there and actually use the internet for what it should be for, and that's educating yourself. Don't go to the same websites over and over and over again to get your information. I do this show, and literally my news only lasted about 35 minutes of the show, okay? And I do a full hour show. But I literally wake up at 5 o'clock every single morning, and I start. It is literally a 12-hour day. And I research everything, both sides of the fence, everything that I can find, the pro for this topic, the opposition to this topic. And I go through and I research this. I could easily just get my news or my information. I could pick one of the major networks we have in the United States and just everything they say, I just repeat it. But then what makes that different? What makes me different from them? You have to do these things if you really want to improve your quality of life. Because here's the problem. When the cycle ends and when they've achieved what they want to achieve, do you think you're going to get some reward in the end from that? No, you're going to be thrown out the window like a piece of trash from a litter bug driving down the highway. They're not going to be there for you when they achieve their means. They're going to dump you like you're nobody. Trust me, I've seen it happen before. And the bad part is I hate that word. Some of these people want totalitarianism. Okay? And that means they want complete and total control over it all. That includes you. You people that are the warriors for them, fighting the fight and standing up for. In the end, they want even total. They don't even need it in the end to get complete and total control over you. They already have it. So think about that. What's the end? What do you think their end game is? Do you think billionaires get behind these projects because they think it's a good thing and it's good for their conscience? No. They get something out of it. And you have to ask yourself, what are they going to get out of it? You need to ask yourself, what are the motives of these influential people pushing you to do the things you do? I think that's kind of cool. Real quick side note. Like I said, I have the news running in the background in case anything pops up as breaking news for you guys. One of the commercials that came up was talking about a veteran's home that they built for this vet. It's a home in Mississippi. And the reason why I know it's a home in Mississippi, I delivered almost everything that went into that house. Because I'm looking at the house and I remember that house from the moment. The only thing I didn't deliver was the plywood and 2x4s and the cement. The sheetrock and everything from the sheetrock out, including the wires, the conduits, and all that, everything I delivered to that house. So it's kind of nifty that something that I helped contribute to ended up on a commercial. I think that's really, really cool. It brings a smile to my face that I helped contribute to making somebody's life better. And I hope that tonight's show, I helped contribute to making your life maybe a little bit better. Maybe I gave you some piece of information, or maybe a news story taught you something. And hopefully it contributed to your life in a positive way. Folks, while you're out there tonight in the world, wherever you are, have yourself a wonderful evening. One thing you need to learn is, I tell people, don't do as, go out there and don't do as I do, which doesn't leave you, don't do something I wouldn't do, which doesn't leave you much room for improvement. But if you want to do something I would do, here's a good idea. Don't dwell on the negative. Okay? And I'll show you right now. Right now where I'm at, the sun is set. And it's dark. But I'll tell you something. In a few more hours, it will be light again because that sun will come back up. No matter how bad it may seem, the sun will set and it will get dark. But eventually, that sun will rise again and there'll be light. So don't dwell on the negative. Enjoy your life. You only have so much time. Enjoy it to the fullest. That's all I can ask of any of you. For everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson Show, I am Rich Wilson, and I hope you enjoyed the show. For everybody out there in the world, and like I said, Warren Go, or I do not know how to pronounce your name, but you popped up in the chat room tonight. I hope you enjoyed the show wherever you are in the world. That's one of the things I need to tell people is you're going to pop into the chat room, at least pop in where you're at in the world. That way I know. But folks, you have yourself a wonderful evening, and we'll see you here tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, except I'm not a big fan of bats, so I'll be here tomorrow. You guys have yourself a wonderful night. For everybody here at World Famous Rich Wilson Show, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.